President Buhari receives Bielsa Governor-elect tax on responsive and functional leadership in the state.
Federal government projects Finance Bill 2019 to reduce tax burden on SMEs.
Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation secures $1.16 million grant for power projects.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss managing electoral victory in Nigeria.
When you're entrusted with the mandate and you get voted into power, how do the victors feel, Kingsley?
Well, certainly elected feelings, no doubt, Jumai, but of course it depends on how you secure that victory if you're a victor.
Yes.
Now, the off-season elections for the two states of Bayelsa and Kogi may have run what many refer to as their first courses, considering also the recourse to litigation. And the victors in the process are all taking it in terms of their euphoria. But how exactly you respond would depend on whether you're a winner or a loser or otherwise.
You know, Kingsley, just like most issues of life, management of victories and losses of elections are like the two sides of a coin. For us, one may wish to ask how best should emerging candidates manage electoral victory? What's next after electoral victory or loss of candidates and their many supporters? All right,
now we'll likewise ask what the implication of electoral victory is for a political party, the people, and ultimately the constituency, whether it's a local constituency, senatorial constituency, or a state constituency, or ultimately a national constituency. And in particular also, what lessons has the Nigerian political class learned so far during and after polling, and how prepared are members of this class to have an all-inclusive administration and therefore to face the very serious business of governance?
You know, there will be answers to these questions with our guests soon enough. I am Juma Yusuf, welcoming you to Good Morning Nigeria. We're broadcasting live in Abuja on the network service of the NTA.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Juma in also welcoming you to the program, and because of which we have our complimentary segments, and this include newspaper review, business, and others. For now, let's join Nolene Ebel-Ame for the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Nolene.
Good morning, Kingsley and Jumai. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the news. The Bayelsa State Governor-elect David Leon has been tasked to ensure that the trust and confidence reposed in him, as well as the enormous goodwill he enjoys across party lines in the oil-rich state, are not misplaced when he assumes office. President Muhammadu Buhari, who threw the challenge while receiving the governor-elect, insists that effective strategies must be fashioned out for responsive, responsible and functional leadership in Bayelsa State.
Sincerely, and I congratulate the party because people thought that was an untouchable constituency, but thank goodness we made it.
I think everybody knows our style now. It's good to succeed. They say nothing succeeds like success.
We, Bayelsans, will not disappoint APC. And I believe there will be a serious positive change in Bayelsa State.
And more congratulatory messages are coming in for the All Progressives Congress APC and its candidates in Kogi and Bayelsa states on their victory in the November 16 governorship elections.
To exercise their franchise. Meanwhile, Governor Yahya Bello has thanked the people of Kogi State for their support and trust culminating in a second mandate.
I appreciate Mr. President, the leader of our party, Muhammadu Buhari, for providing this platform and ensuring that the level playing field was provided starting from the primaries to this particular general election. Sincerely, I appreciate the good people of Kogi State. You are the winners of this particular election.
The leadership of the National Assembly is leading the congratulatory messages for the All Progressives Congress Party, the APC, for winning the November 16 governorship election in Kogi and Bayelsa states. In his message, the President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, rejoiced with the Kogi State Governor, Yahaya Bello, on his re-election and David Leon for making history as the first governor of Bayelsa State to be elected on a platform different from the outgoing ruling party. And on his part, Speaker House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila enjoins the people of both Kogi and Bayelsa states, including members of opposition parties, to join hands with the governors-elect to take their states to enviable levels, noting that victories for APC candidates is an indication of the party's acceptance in the two states. Meanwhile, the APC's National Publicity Secretary, Lanre Issa Onilu, has also conveyed the party's appreciation to the people of Bayelsa and Kogi states, describing the election of David Leon in Bayelsa State, which has been governed by the PDP since 1999, as a landmark. The party says it is, however, confident that although the Independent National Electoral Commission has declared the senatorial election in Kogi West District inconclusive, the party's candidate, Senator Smart Adeyemi, will reclaim his mandate when the supplementary election is held. In his own message, chairman of the Northern Governors Forum and Plateau State Governor Simon Bako Lalong describes the victory of Bayelsa Governor-elect David Leon as a demonstration of the people's confidence in his ability to deliver change to the people of the state. Now, this is in line with the vision of the APC. Governor Lalong says the re-election of Governor Yahaya Bello was also a sign of confidence by the people of Kogi State and an opportunity to work harder in taking the state to the next level.
And on legal matters, the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has affirmed the victory of Governor Darius Ishaku of Taraba State after dismissing the appeal of the All Progressives Congress for lack of merit. In a unanimous judgment, the 5-man panel of justices, led by Justice Chidi Uwa, ruled that the APC ought not to have participated in the Taraba State governorship election.
Since the candidate of APC was disqualified from contesting the election, that APC never fielded any candidate and never participated in the election.
Just as the public discourse about the just concluded governorship elections in Bayelsa and Kogi states is dominating the information space in Nigeria, advocates of credible elections at a summit tagged Digital Voting 2019 want the introduction of electronic voting in the country.
We need to ensure that this is entrenched as part of the law and that results and polling activities from particular polling units should be accessible to every Nigerian.
If we have electronic voting in Nigeria, we are sure of over 70 million people vote.
We have to put in place a system of dealing ruthlessly with electoral offenders.
Ahead of the public hearing on the Finance Bill 2019, Senate Committee on Finance has met with the Minister of Finance to clear grey areas. The minister expressed optimism that the bill will create enabling environment, business environment, reduce burden on SMEs, promote fiscal equity, and expand government revenue profile.
Best practice. And this includes introduction of tax rules to capture digital economy as well as services rendered offshore.
This put together is passed into law, encouraging direct investment into the country.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) has concluded arrangements for the signing of $1.16 million grant with the United States Trade and Development Agency to fund the NNPC Abuja Independent Power Project, expected to generate 1,350 megawatts of electricity. The corporation says the project will improve power supply and increase the participation of public-private partnership in driving the economic recovery and growth plan.
This plant is going to operate as a build, own and operate basis. And indeed, the principal partner in putting this plant in place is GE, a very great American company which has done many businesses with us. And in this respect, we're counting on GE to deliver on this project and to make it work.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed says the federal government will continue to collaborate with the Nigerian Union of Journalists and other such bodies as it moves towards sanitizing the nation's social media space. The minister stated this when he granted audience to the leadership of the NUJ in Abuja.
No trained professional journalist can afford to engage in fake news. I also believe that no trained professional journalist can afford to engage in hate speech because he or she will not know the consequences. It is therefore imperative for the NUJ and other professional bodies to guard their turf.
Will appeal to the Honorable Minister, sir, as the spokesman of the federal government of Nigeria, to ensure that safety of journalists is a priority and that nothing should be done to attempt restricting freedom of the press.
And those are the news highlights for now. The program continues with Jumai and Kinsley after this break. I am Nolin Ebel Ame. Thank you.
The new edition of TV Guide is out, exclusively taking a look at the traditional television and new media. Are they comparable or complementary? Media industry players give perspective on the trends, progress, challenges, and the way forward. Find out on this compelling edition of TV Guide. Expository interviews with stars of the team within our space. Becky Madajemo of NTA, Utibe Umore of AIT, Nifemi Oguntai of TVC, and a host of others. TV Guide, your indispensable companion, also feature Yamadina.
I'm the CEO, managing director of Yamadina Sister Restaurant. I choose to serve. Shut up your mouth. Let me finish.
A TV drama series on NTA. Let's get to meet the characters behind Yamadina. This edition also presents exciting features on tourism, culture, entertainment, sports, health, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendors near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
This year, like every other year, for over a decade, we celebrate and reward African creatives around the world at the African Academy Awards ZAFA 2019 in Abuja, Nigeria. The second homecoming event is a 3-day gathering of industry stakeholders and enthusiasts to network as well as encourage and motivate budding talents. The movie screenings, exhibitions, and masterclasses will hold at the Silverbird Gallery on the 22nd, 23rd November 2019. The awards and gala night on the 23rd of November 2019 at the prestigious Truscott Hilton Hotel Abuja. For inquiries and sponsorship, advert placements, and tickets, call the following numbers on your screen now or visit www.zafa.org.
This is wonderful. I'm super excited about this. Nothing better of them other than awesomeness.
ZAFA 2018. Come expecting the unexpected.
Hey, bro, what's up, man?
Wait. Sure, son, I want the bicycle.
Enjoy more data than before on Airtel Home Broadband. Get up to 160 gigabytes on routers with 25,000 Naira and 55 gigabytes on Airtel MiFis with 12,000 Naira. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband by
Airtel, the smartphone network.
The Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, cordially invites the general public to the 2019 Abuja Carnival, taking place between 23rd and 25th November 2019. Theme: Culture for Peace. Street Carnival and opening ceremony. Saturday, 23rd November 2019. Venue from Old Parade Ground to Area 1, Abuja. Time from 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Other cultural activities on display are Children's Fiesta at GSS Area 10, Garki, Abuja. Durbar at Kuje Stadium. Boat Regatta at Jabi Dam. Masquerade Fiesta at Government Day Secondary School, Gwagwalada. Traditional Cuisine Fair and Bush Bar at Old Parade Ground. Command Performance and Award Night, as well as Contemporary Music Fiesta at the Old Parade Ground from 23rd to 25th November 2019. Time from 8:30 p.m. till dawn daily. Deaconess Grace Isu Gekbe, Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Information and Culture, announcer.
Not so fast. Look, I'm tired. I want to check out of this country for greener pastures.
Just calm down for a moment. Please sit down.
Do you have a job where you're going to? No, but someone is arranging,
Listen, Aliko. Checking out of this country without proper planning means one thing. Unimaginable begin. You know, I've been in the diaspora, but legitimately doing great things at home and abroad. As I've been saying, without the proper footing abroad, the risk is not worth it. Listen, Alinko, it's better to be home than be trapped abroad or even end up in prison.
Welcome back. Inflation rose again in October 2019 by 11.61% year-on-year compared to last year's 11.24%. Here is Abdul Karim Zulmi with the rest of the stories in our business news segment.
The National Bureau of Statistics, the Consumer Price Index, which measures inflation, again rose to 11.61% in October 2019 compared to 11.24% the preceding month. Food inflation increased to 14.09% in the month under review compared to 13.51% in September. And also, core inflation, which excludes the prices of volatile agricultural produce, however, slowed to 8.88% in October compared to 8.94% recorded in the preceding year. Now, let's take a look at the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange and see how the market fared. With business news, Abdul Karim Zermi.
Thank you very much, Abdul Karim, for the business package, and good morning, Nigeria. Next for us, take a look at the front pages of some of today's newspapers.
We begin with the Punch newspaper just above the masthead. Experts blame border closure as inflation hits 16.61%. You find that story on page 27. Senate disowns hate speech bill. Sponsor gets threats messages. That story is on page 7. Bandits kill 14 in fresh Zamfara attack. You find that story on page 21. APC awaits Buhari's approval for NEC meeting. That story is on page 8. Below the masthead, Bayelsa Kogi governorship polls results. Go to court. Buhari tells PDP orders as Bello wins. With riders, polls peaceful despite pockets of unrest. That's coming from President Muhammadu Buhari. There were no elections but wars. PDP and Wada, governorship candidate of the PDP in Kogi State. APC governors praise Jonathan. Presidency hates opposition. You find all that on page 2. And the picture story there, 8 die, 9 injured in Kogi petrol tanker crash. That story is on page 5. And at the bottom plate of the Punch newspaper, Benue fire kills Palmsec, pregnant wife, children. That story is on page 43. Policemen driving against traffic crushed 2 to death. Lagos state government tranquilizes, removes lion from Indians' Victoria Island residents. You find that story on page 4 and 5. DSS lied over Dasuki's continuous detention. That's coming from a lawyer. That story is on page 39.
Okay, let's take a look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. And by the way, Bayo Atoyebe is not available for the review session this morning. Daily Trust newspaper, immediately below the nameplate, Kogi, that's the Kogi governorship election. Wada heads to tribunal as INEC declares Bello winner. That's page 13. Hate speech bill, not about third-term agenda. That's according to the Senate. That's on page 6. And Palmsec, wife, children die in Benue fire. Details can be found on page 4. Now, the lead story for the Daily Trust is the fallout of the governorship election that took place at the weekend. Jonathan faces suspension over PDP's defeat in Bayelsa. Hosts APC leaders in Yanagwa, and Oshomole thanks ex-president. And you can see the illustration there beside the illustration also of the former president, the timelines that have been stated. September 04, that's this year. Jonathan did not support PDP candidate during the party's primary election. October the 6th, ex-president Jonathan's mom prayed for Leon's APC governor-elect's victory when he visited her in Otuoke. October 6th as well, Jonathan shunned PDP's grand rally in Yanagwa. Jonathan visited Buhari in the villa October 10th. November 17th, Jonathan hosted APC leaders after announcement of results. Now, this is the infographics provided by Daily Trust. But below that, you have 3 other headlines. House Supreme Court resolved 5 appeal issues in Atiku versus Buhari. Details on page 31. And senators grill finance minister on tax hike. Details on page 3. And gunmen kill 14 in Zamfara. Details on page 4.
And coming from the leadership newspaper, just below the masthead, $801.5 million Malabo oil bribe. EFCC moves for advocates extradition. Serves charges to ex-AGF via Interpol. And the picture story there, President Muhammadu Buhari speaking with APC stalwarts following the party's victory in Bayelsa State governorship poll. You can see the Minister of State for Petroleum, Tumi Praise Silva, Jigawa State Governor Badaru Abubakar, Bayelsa State Governor-elect David Leon, Kebbi State Governor Atiku Bagudu, Chairman of Governors Forum Kade Fayemi, and APC National Chairman Adams Oshomole at the presidential villa Abuja yesterday. And the bold headlines there, PMB, that's President Muhammadu Buhari, tells Bello Leon to be magnanimous in victory. With riders, I have broken the jinx of ethnicity. That's coming from Yahaya Bello, Kogi State Governor. INEC fabricated results coming from Wada, the PDP governorship candidate. We will right the wrongs in Bayelsa. That's coming from Leon, the APC gubernatorial who won the election candidate. Diri declares self-winner. Lawan Bajabia Mila orders congratulate governors-elect. And the picture story there again, Kogi State Governor-elect Yahaya Bello, Middle, Deputy Governor-elect and Edward Onoja left, and the governor's wife Rashidat during Bello's acceptance speech at Government House, Lokoja, yesterday. Kinsley.
All right, well, that's all I have. The other paper, of course, is the Nigerian Pilot, where the editorial is. But from the stories that we have read so far, aside from the stories on politics, there's a curious one about the cub lion that has not been tranquilized and removed from the residence of an Indian on Victoria Island in Lagos. There are a number of curiosities with regard to that story. In the first instance, of course, the authorities have indicated that they have invited him for questioning. How did he acquire the cub lion in the first instance? Did they acquire it in Nigeria? Did they import it into the country? And who gave approval for him to have acquired it? And for how long did he keep it in his premises? And what exactly was he using it for? Because it's been said that he used it as a guard, as it were, in place of the typical guard that you have.
What about the dogs? All these Alsatian dogs and bulldogs. I think they
it is for him to explain, because a lion is a wild animal, and so the endangerment of public safety is one key issue that arises strictly from that. And then, of course, he's in the meantime lucky that no havoc had been committed by the cub lion.
Yes.
Otherwise, but the key thing is, how did he get it? Where did he get it from? For how long did he have it? Who gave approval for him to have it? And if they say it's an Indian, and they say that immigration should also find out his particulars. Is he genuinely living in Nigeria? So what does he have a visa to be in Nigeria? What does he do in this country? So that we can have a clear sense of what that is all about.
At times, you can't seem to understand how some things work out that way. And, Kingsley, we just saw 8 die, 9 injured in Kogi petroleum tanker crash. One too many.
Unfortunately, it's a topic that we have also discussed on this program. It appears that, we cannot declare a sort of an agency on virtually every problematic issue in the country. What is crucial is that tanker drivers themselves need a lot of re-education. Not just because our drivers generally often weaponize their vehicles.
Exactly.
Just weaponize. So do tanker drivers understand what they're doing? Do they know that they are conveying material that is highly inflammable? And therefore, what should be their protocol on the road, on the highway, and how should they proceed? Of course, some of the tanker fires that we have seen in Lagos clearly involve tankers that were not fit to be on the road. Yes. They were not certified to be on the road. Some of them were overloaded. And so we get reports from time to time. And this is very disheartening.
Yes, this year alone, I think we've had more than 10 tanker.
A number of incidents
and lots of Nigerians have died. I think there should be a training for tanker. The speed limit to itself has to come into play here.
Well, the story about former President Goodluck Jonathan, which is the lead story on the front page of the Daily Trust. Of course, the story is speculative. It says faces suspension over PDP's defeat in Bayelsa, and there the timelines that are indicated there. One says Jonathan visited Buhari in the villa. It wasn't his first visit to...
Are they supposed to be enemies?
Of course, certainly not. It wasn't his first visit to the villa. And usually, we had seen in the past when the former president is embarking on election observer missions in different parts of the African continent, which he has done extensively this year. Either before or after, you will see him paying a visit to the incumbent president, Muhammadu Buhari. That's one. But what is clear from insider accounts of what happened in Bayelsa, there are more serious questions to ask. Assuming it is a desire of the PDP to say, okay, discipline all of those who didn't work for the victory of the party, they also have to ask questions whether there was internal democracy in the choice of the candidate. It would appear that was the gravamen of the protest votes, by members of the party. Because if, according to the allegation, they had carried everybody along and there seemed to have been no dictatorship of the person who called the shots, perhaps the outcome might have been different. So I think those are the key issues they should look at if they seek to instill discipline and also build their party.
Yes, and the social media also played a great role in ensuring that the right person got in there. Well, it's something they need to trash out on the state level.
Unfortunately, there's another story there. It's about the gunmen killing 14 gunmen. These are bandits now in Zamfara. For some weeks now, there had been some respite.
Yes,
and we just hope that there's no resurgence, because there had been negotiations with the bandits. In some cases, exchange of, if you like, prisoners. And suddenly now you're having this spike But some are saying it's a reprisal attack. If it's a reprisal attack, are you saying...
What happened in the first place
in the first instance, are the bandits fighting on behalf of an identified or unidentified group? What exactly has gone wrong for us to now have this relapse that has occasioned the death of 14 persons? So those are the, of course, the hate speech bill, which is not about third term. Senator Sabi Abdullah is said to be on his own, and that the bill is his. If the bill says through, fine, but if it doesn't say through, then of course it is not the business of the Senate per se. That's a private member's bill, as has been clarified. You have other stories?
No, I don't. Just the head. I think we'll go to the editorial now.
Okay, so let's take a look at the editorial. It's coming from the Nigerian Pilot newspaper, and it says, "Saving Nigerian children from pneumonia epidemic." The editorial states in part that according to a global non-governmental organization, Save the Children International, a total of over 800,000 under 5 years die annually worldwide. And of this number, 162,000 children in Nigeria under 5 years die of pneumonia. And this, of course, this figure relates to 2018 alone. And by this implication, Nigeria is said to have the highest pneumonia mortality rate in the world. That's the one involving children. The editorial, of course, is saying that the federal government and all relevant stakeholders should rise up to the occasion as a matter of urgency in dealing with the scourge of pneumonia in children. Would you not watch and see what pneumonia epidemic would do in terms of destroying the lives of our children in this savage manner that is said to be proliferating? So that's the result from the Nigerian Pilot. In the absence of any other story, we'll take a short break now and then continue with the rest of the program.
Of travel and counting. 20 years of promoting tourism in Africa and diaspora. Over 3 million kilometers traveled. Over 30 African countries visited. Explored the diaspora in 4 continents. Connected over 100,000 happy tourists to Africa. Reached over 50 million homes. Igniting smiles across Africa and beyond. As Gogi Africa turns 20, we thank you and invite you to join us in the quest for 20 must-visit destinations in partnership with the largest TV network in Africa, the NTA, Ministry of Information and Culture, Ministry of Transportation, Lagos State Government, Canon, Delta Airlines, Royal Caribbean, Tour Brokers International. You too can still be a partner. Call the numbers on your screen or info@gogeafrica.tv. Goge Africa, celebrating 2 decades of heritage, travel and tourism.
They are there at the crack of dawn. They are there busy preparing while we rise for our day. They are there silently, guarding, waiting, listening, and watching. They are there ready in the sky above and the waters below, in the blistering heat of the day, in the dead of night, willing, indefatigable, determined in the defense of the sovereignty of our country. They are our first line of defense and our last. They who have paid the ultimate price in defending us. They are fathers and uncles. They are mothers and sisters and girlfriends and boyfriends. They are brothers and cousins and best friends and neighbors. They are classmates, colleagues, and citizens of this nation. They are our defenders and deserve our respect, our prayers, our thoughts. Nigeria, please support our armed forces.
Thanks for staying with Good Morning Nigeria. And on managing electoral victory in Nigeria, Our correspondent Aisha Ubali has this report as a prompt to our discussion.
Just like most elections in Nigeria, elections of Kogi and Bayelsa State may have come and gone with the emergence of a winner. Like some school of thought will see, the politics is over. Now it's time for governance. And this requires the expertise and collaboration of citizens from all walks of life to be effective. In a multi-party state like Nigeria, where people stand for election into the same office, how much of opposition strategies apply to governance, and how often does greater good override party affiliation? History has shown that apart from the Obasanjo administration, who after winning election carried the opposition party along, for instance, the appointment of Obola Ige of the Alliance Party, observers have blamed the lack of inclusion to the various parties, who believe that respect for party and internal democracy is paramount. The situation of sidelining some oppositions who have the ability to deliver have had a great toll on the socio-economic growth of the state and country as a whole. Now the question is, how can politicians manage election victory, which is beyond just congratulating the victors and casting blames on the losers? Let's feel the pulse of the people as regards to managing electoral victory.
The easiest way to manage election victory is when people's choice have a stake in election. In a situation whereby one is being imposed on the masses, you are not managing it. You are not managing election victory. It is when people make their choice of leadership and you allow that choice to stick. That is the only way we can manage election victories, as far as Nigeria is concerned.
Whenever election is conducted and it happens that a winner must emerge and two people cannot emerge in one position, so what we want at last is that let entire people of that very, be it constituency or a state, build up a formidable progressive mind of togetherness.
To manage electoral victory, it has to do with the stakeholders in election.
When you get a victory, you pray and thank your God. No any destruction, no any disturbing one another, because it is God that gives victory.
All right, thank you very much, Aisha Obali, for that background. We have 4 guests with us in the studios, and they are familiar faces for our political analysis and indeed other issues. First, let's welcome the former governor of Edo State, Senator and Professor Seremi Osumbo. Prof, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Pleasure too. Good morning.
Okay. Also here with us in the studios, would like to welcome the Executive Chairman of the Abuja Municipal Area Council. That's AMAC, Honorable Abdullahi Adamu Candido. Chair, pleasure to have you with us.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay.
Also in the studio is an election observer and executive director at Operation Nigeria, Mr. Ezenwa Nwogo. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Pleasure.
And joining the conversation, a political analyst, Chief Michael Kayode Ajayi. It's always a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right, gentlemen, once again, it's our pleasure to have you on this. Just before we get to managing the electoral victory, which is the issue that we are focusing on this morning, perhaps we should, in the context of our national experience, even pose the question, what is electoral victory? Is there a Machiavellian streak to it, that once the results are announced, so victory is pronounced? Or there are different types of electoral victory? As anyone, you've been a monitor for an observer for a long while.
Well, there is something called electoral victory. So people who contest election through the platform of political parties sell themselves to the electorates, and if the electorates find them electable and then elect them, that's victory. But I understand from the perspective with which the lens from which we are looking at this. For a while now, we've had elections that are indeed victories that people who would have claimed to have those victories can't beat their chest and say they deserved it. in many instances. Even when they do, even when ordinarily they will have won those elections, we have seen them use methods that are not proper to get to that point. So, but indeed, people who are in a contest, there must be a victor. Whether it is through Philistine methods is a different thing, but we can't deny the fact that people contest elections and win in a way that everyone who is involved in the process will accept that this process was genuine, was free, fair, credible, and also acceptable. Because sometimes a election may necessarily be credible but may not be fair. It may be fair and not credible, depending on the lens from which you're looking at it. But all the same, as we go into the discussion, we will begin to unpack the different ways people have won elections, and then we can then decide whether those victories are really deserving or not.
Okay, Mr. Michael Ajayi, let's have your take on that.
Yeah, thank you very much. When you talk of victory, victory can come in different shape. You can have victory by the barrel of the gun, where it is imposed. You have no choice. But when you talk of victory in a democracy, you are talking of victory by popular choice. People have gone out, they have cast their votes, and that victory is determined by the majority. That is what is called popular choice in a democracy. Then you can also have victory by imposition. That is, you have contestants and someone comes and says, this is my choice and so be it, and the people have no voice. So victory can come in different forms. But in a democracy, if you situate it with the context of democracy, you are not talking of majority vote, popular choice, the choice of the expression of the choice of the people. That is how I see the big type of victories we have.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Candido.
Thank you very much. I think from my own point of thought, victory in election is a tripartite model. One, the victor himself. Two, even the loser. And of course, those who went out to cast the vote are also victors. Victors because they may have casted a choice and the choice worked out for them. They will celebrate. It means they have also won something that, they are so concerned. And even those who also casted a vote for a person and the person did not likely win this election, and they saw it glaringly that it is transparent and free, that they can also go home to say, well, we made our effort. Unfortunately, our choice did not to make it. So this is the way I look at victory. Electoral victory is something that has to be considered in this manner. You just cannot say, okay, because I won the election and I'm the victor. Everybody who participated, both the loser and the winner, and those who also went out to cast these votes, they are as well, they must celebrate this victory because we're talking of electoral victory in all aspects. That is how I look at it.
Well, Mr. Osumbo, Senator Osumbo, you've contested elections so many times, and looking at it from the just concluded Kogi Bayelsa election, is it like the winner takes all?
Well, first of all, permit me to express my joy and happiness that my party, the APC, has prevailed and won in the elections of last Saturday, and also to use the opportunity to congratulate the leader of the party, Mr. President, the national chairman, and other leaders that played one role or the other to deliver this victory that we are talking about. And also to congratulate the winners of the election, those who were victorious, and also talking about what is victory. Victory is winning an election. There are losers. Where you have victors, you have those who didn't win. So for those who won and who were victorious, I also use this opportunity to congratulate them. As to the experiences, what happens, which is really the crux of this discussion, how do you manage this victory? Having contested and won, what are the next steps that you need to take? And the steps to take is to begin to fulfill the promises that you made to the people. Is to begin to implement the manifesto of the party under whose platform you contested and won the election. Because those who voted considered those promises as contained in the manifesto and those that you expressed over the course of the campaign period, at rallies, at jingles, whatever. And also to uphold the promise in terms of personal approach, personal character, personal the personal touch that you intended to bring. Because you hear people saying, oh, that I will bring an added dimension to governance. And people would want to see that being manifested as quickly as possible. There's, of course, a tendency in Nigeria these days, maybe it's becoming an expectation, that even the losers should share in the joy of the victory. And I have no quarrel with that at all, because it is quite expensive to run an election. It is painful to lose, and it is always helpful that the winner should stretch out a hand of fellowship to the loser and try to alleviate the pain, as it were, whether in terms of bringing them on board in his administration, or deciding to, assuming that the loser had some priority projects in mind, to begin to consider those projects that are of benefit to the people. That is the expectation in Nigeria. But I know that in some other parts of the world, where there are different political parties take different political positions, people will say ideology or principles. When that obtains, it is not easy to get people on the other side. Even though they lost, they may not be very much disposed to come in to run the government with you. They would rather wait, bid their time, and hope that in 4 years or 5 years or 10 years' time, the people will buy into their agenda and vote them into power. But I quite appreciate that for developing countries, people don't have the patience to wait for that length of time, and there's always the tendency to say, okay, bring them on board. Let them also partake in the governance, partake in the dividends of democracy. So these are the peculiarities of Nigeria. And I do hope and expect that those who have won now will stretch a hand of fellowship to those who lost. And I'm happy that David Leon, the governor-elect of Bayelsa, has publicly declared that he's willing to reach out to opposition and all the segments of the Bayelsa state. And Governor Yaya Bello of Kogi State has learned over the past 4 years. I'm sure he's richer in experience now than he was 4 years ago. So he will be able also to bring on board people that are willing to work with him. People tend to misunderstand Yaya Bello. I've interacted with him, and I find that he has a pleasant disposition, and he's always willing to listen to people. So I do hope that my observation is right, and if it is right, I expect that people should be able to reach out to him, share ideas with him, and Kogi State will be the better for it in the next 4 years.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Osumbo. Let's also look at the other side. Professor Osumbo has said something, that losing an election is painful, indeed very painful in Nigeria. How do you juxtapose that with victory, which we were talking about earlier? Why is election loss such a painful encounter in this country?
I'm happy Prof talked about, he prefaced his conversation with prevailing. And I knew that those choice of words were deliberate. When you prevail,
It means that you put in quite a lot in subjugating the other person. And so if you win fairly, if you are defeated fairly and squarely, the pains will be lesser. But if in an unfair contest, that's what makes that very painful. That we do not create a situation in which people who come to contest election in our country or who win election can say, I won this election fair and square. And that's the challenge. The challenge is that we cannot paper. You see, it's easier when we're on this side, when we are the ones who have used every means to secure this victory. We can boast about it. We can begin to, luxuriate in the infamy of what really we should be ashamed of. The kind of processes that produce leaders in our country is below par at this point in time. You can't in 2019 be having situations in which the determination of who becomes what in many parts of the country is by option AK-47. It's diminishing. And every self-respecting person needs to come out clearly to say this is not right. In future, in very near future, all that you need to do to win election is to find a lot of money, acquire, stockpile arms, and at the end of the day, unleash this on the people. Even in elections, like in Bayelsa, for instance, even if you conduct that election free and fair, the David Leon will have won the election. Is known to everybody. But the means through which these victories are secured now has some foul smell to them. And we must begin to address those issues. And those issues diminish us in the eye of self-respecting people all over the world. We put these things on television. We see thugs put on uniforms. The intelligence agencies have that information, that this will happen, that you will have thugs put on uniform of policemen and do XYZ. You have heard about it several days ahead. Nothing is done about it. You demobilize 33,000, 35,000 policemen to states, and at the end of the day, hoodlums cut away ballot box, stuff them, and we announce those results, and we move ahead. What are we telling what are we telling the young people of this country? What kind of picture are we creating? So for me, it's important to say, yes, you have won elections, but you need to audit this your victory. You need to introspect and say, look, is this the way to go on? You can benefit from perfidy today, but what about tomorrow if the table turns against you? Then that pain that you talked about becomes very rife and strong.
Okay, Mr. Ezenwa, you've raised some points. Let's go back to Michael Kayode Ajayi. We're seeing a shift, a new dimension to how politics is played in this country now, from the presidential election to this election. Victory, they say, is a sweet thing. But how do we handle it?
Well, handling it depends on the political sophistication of the winner, his level of magnanimity, his level of maturity in managing it. And I think I tend to share much of what my friend here has said about the kind of elections we conduct. Before the elections, most of the candidates engage in vicious campaign. They use all kinds of invectives, provocative. Some use ethnic, playing to ethnic sentiment, and it tends to go to their bases and energize them. And they use, even in religion, they apply religion and so on and so forth. So the various insults they pass is one of those things that makes victory to be difficult to accept to the loser. It is very painful to them. Another factor you have to look at is the amount of money that goes into this election is huge. It's stupendous. When you look at it to the GDP of this country, it's unimaginable. For a country that is developing, for a country that has a country with low foreign reserve, and you spend so much billions on conducting state election, the democracy is very expensive. But unfortunately, the electorate have not been able to reap that investment, the value of that investment we have put into that election. So when you look at it and see the kind of zero-sum game we play in politics, the winner wins everything, the loser loses everything. Prof said maybe he has to wait for the next 4 years. He sees the 4 years as very far, as if it is 10 years. Not only that, he is also scared. He's going to lose his supporters. The supporters will start going up in droves because they have invested their sweat in the election, thinking that if our candidate wins, certainly in the distribution of the perquisite of office, they are going to benefit in one way or the other. Then the winner sees himself as if you have removed the entire clothes from him. He's naked. He does not see his supporters anymore. So he's angry, he's sad. And unfortunately, the victor does not have the maturity to begin to bring in discourse, dialogue with the winner to say, okay, you want to develop this state or you want to develop this country. We may have different agenda, but then our objective is welfare, to improve the welfare of the people. Let's come, let's share ideas and so on. Let's bring in your men into the system. The only time you have where the winning party brings in the opposition is when you have an accord, like the NPP accord of those days, in which some political elements were brought in from NPP. And when the accord broke down, those who enjoyed the offices refused to go back again. Even when the party said, the accord is broken down, all of you should resign en masse, they refused to resign. So when you talk of management of election victory, it depends much on the sophistication, the political sophistication and maturity of the winner. His ability to say, okay, the loser, come, let's discuss. Our objective is to develop the state. But my fear is the level of violence we are going into in Nigerian politics. And as he said, where victory is determined by the use of the gun. And if we go at this rate, the fear is to 2023. If you win election, not through the choice of the people, if you win election not through the choice of the people, but you think you can invest so much in violence, and others are watching, they are going to do the same. And we don't want the military to intervene in Nigerian politics anymore. But you do not, the politicians must develop the attitude, the political culture of playing by the rules. Playing by the rules is very important. If you don't play by the rules, you create a lot of crises. And of recent, just to add a flip to what I was saying, INEC came and said the judiciary is their problem. Unfortunately, again, the problem of judiciary is also INEC. Yes. When you don't conduct a free and fair election, when you are operating from a slanted position, everybody says you play, in a game of football, the football field is flat. And that's one aspect in which elder statesmen like Professor Sumbo will have to be looking at. How do we manage an election where an incumbent, Candido knows what I'm talking about. You are an incumbent, you are in office. You use the paraphernalia of office to install yourself. You use the vehicles, the resources of the state. And a contestant coming into the game does not have this access. That is operating from a slanted position. The field is no more level. If it's in the presidential election, it's the same. You use the state resources to prosecute the election. And the candidate is coming from the other side. So the level is not a level playing ground. So we must begin to research into how do we do it. Secondly, the use of ballot boxes and ballot papers. The hoodlums now have understood that the moment you snatch the ballot box and you tear the papers, election in that polling booth is cancelled. So they go to where your strength is and perpetrate that evil and then deny you of your vote. That is a problem of Nigerian politics that we must begin to look and address. Thank you.
All right, Mike and Ezenwa, what you both have talked about now relates to an aspect of managing electoral victory, namely auditing the process of that victory after the fact. That's one aspect. Let's bring in Honorable Candido. I mean, we saw it was our guest on Good Morning Nigeria after he sweated in February, March this year to be re-elected. Yeah. To be re-elected. He was lean when he came into the studios, and he did tell us, what he went through. And of course, I mean, give us a sense of it from a personal point of view. I mean, that wasn't an easy election for you. And did you try to get yourself into the shoes of fellow contestants who lost the election?
Well, I think one of my beautiful attributes about contest is that I have tested the two pills. One, I once contested and lost. So I know how painful it is to lose an election. And having won election also, I now also know how sweet it is to win election. But I think where all and above, what is most important is for all these institutions that has to do with election to get better strengthened. We have state apparatus. For instance, the INEC. We also have the security agencies. All these are, state institutions that manage election. And for me, who contested election to either win or lose, if I discover that election is very, very free and very transparent, even my supporters will agree with me if I tell them calm down. But when situations are opposite, you discover that whatever you tell me, I may not even listen, not to talk of even my supporters. So I think what I'm trying to emphasize is that generally in this country, certainly there are people who cry more than the bereaved. For instance, the two elections that just took place, if the success had gone the other way, you wouldn't have heard of any issue that has to do with, the election in Kogi was marred by crisis, or election in Bayelsa was also characterized by whatever you can call it. If this election went their way, nobody will hear that. This is the culture of a typical Nigeria. But what did I say? Some people cry more than they bereave. The gentleman here belongs to the civil societies or whatever you can call them. Okay? Certainly, sometimes they are not also fair to this nation. They try to expose the ills unnecessarily that are not even there. For instance, I'm just coming from Lokoja. I also went to monitor an activities of what happened there. When you see these people sitting idle, doing nothing, but the first they do is to report. What are they reporting? Reporting gossip from pages of social influencers. This is not the true color of what they're supposed to do. They have not even gone to the root of where the election took place. But before you know it, they have already signaled the international community that election in this country, in this part of the state, is marred by crisis, marred by bullet shooting and what have you. These are situations. And therefore, when you discover such a thing happening, no sensible Nigerian will accept that situation. So we need to strengthen, one, our electoral institutions. Two, we also need to also ensure that if you win election, try to bring about an all-inclusiveness in governance. Let there be participation by all, irrespective of you win or you lose. For instance, I make a case about myself. I'm only chairing a local council. But not because I chair through my party. I also have to bring in other people from other side, because I know certainly the head of those other people in the other opposing political party may even have a better idea than me. But because the electorate have voted me, I need to also have their input so that we can collectively put together and then move our territory to a better state. So these are situations that I think if we strengthen our institutions the more, and we try to tell ourselves the naked truth, and then we send positive signals about our nation, it will speak well and further, entrench our democratic tenet. That is the best way to go about it. Or else we will continue to talk and not talk, and then unfortunately at the end of the day we may not even realize what we really want. This is where I look at it. And I think the civil societies must be further educated themselves. They must be sensitized the more. Because when you look at them, most of them are partisan. Most of them are partisan. And when you dish out information about your country, about yourself, you are telling the international community about yourself. You're not telling the international community about politicians or the system. You are telling the international world about yourself. So what have you done to ensure that things are done in the right manner? Instead, you just send signals of negative information about your country. These are certainly some of these things that they do, and I think we should try to resensitize them the more. And then in sending them to monitor elections, they should audit them. They should really find out, are they really, pro-Democrats or are they partisan? If we do that, we'll be able to checkmate some of these excesses.
But do you think that these observers alone pass across the message of violence and killings during elections? The social media, somebody just been there can just take a picture and post it on the social media and it goes viral. They are not observers.
I said I'm just coming from Lokoja.
Okay.
I may have sat with some of them. The way I get information from social media, they use it instantly and send without the cost of going to actual voting locations. They categorically sit on the information they get and then send it to the international community, which is wrong. You understand my point? So certainly I am saying it, and without any apology, that most of them are partisan. And it must be noted in that
okay,
manner.
all right. Thanks, Honorable Abdullahi Candido. Incidentally, SNY is here, so you'll have the opportunity of responding to parts of what you've just said. Back to Professor Osumbo. In terms of managing the electoral victory, there are a number of issues that we have on the table. One is having an all-inclusive government. Another is, of course, auditing the process so that we can learn lessons. And, of course, the third issue will be, getting to grips with the harder task of governance. But from your own perspective, what will be the focus or matters to consider in auditing the electoral process that has yielded victory, which all, we need to manage, victors, losers, and indeed the electorate?
Well, again, on an occasion like this, I always thank the NTA for providing this kind of forum to audit the electoral process after every election. And we learn from every exercise, we learn and try to improve where things have been lacking. Well, as the chairman has said, Nigeria is our country. It is Nigerians that we repair this country and make it the pride of all of us. Nobody is going to come from his own country because they also have their problems in their countries. It is Nigerians that must find solutions to our own problems. And these days, I always like to listen to what is your proposal, what is your suggestion. Because if you go to the market, the woman in the market will tell you the problems of Nigeria. So, but may not be able to tell you what the solutions are. So those of us who have the opportunity, the privilege, I always want to hear what is your proposal. How do we solve this problem confronting our country? You will recall that in the past, police used to go to polling stations with guns. But these days, they are not allowed to carry guns. They just deploy them. He talked about, is it 30,000 or whatever? No. They go there and fold their arms.
When the thugs have weapons.
When the thugs come with weapons, they simply fold their arms because they are not armed. How do they confront the thugs? So as we interrogate the process, let us begin to ask ourselves, are we satisfied with deploying police to polling stations and they fold their arms? Or should they be armed? People have said generally soldiers have no business with elections. So keep the soldiers away.
They have enough on their plate already.
Exactly. So who then checks these thugs when they are rampaging all over the place? Is it INEC? INEC is not an armed organization. They don't carry arms. So who confronts the thugs? So it is time for us again to begin to revisit that issue as to how do you ensure that those who are conducting these elections are protected from rampaging thugs. Another issue is we talked about the role of social media. And social media is good and bad, but we must try to minimize the negative aspects of social media. Talking about this election that just took place, I saw a video. There's so many videos flying. I'm sure all of us here have seen videos. There's one where somebody was saying, oh, that police people are coming to disrupt the election. They are fake police. They are wearing fake police uniform. Oh, see Nigerian police. The same man, at the same time, he's talking, he's accusing the Nigerian police, and at the same time talking about this being fake police putting on uniform, and that our boys are chasing them. He was talking. Our brave boys are chasing them away. These fake police, see Nigerian police. So who really was responsible? Were they Nigerian policemen or fake police? So again, I don't know, but we must interrogate the process, begin to find out, to sift the chaff from the wheat, and decide what is true and what is not true, what is being exaggerated. So that is what I can say now, particularly because the major thing that has come out from this election is allegations of violence. How do we check that? Even somebody going, it is true, I have also seen pictures of ballot papers on the streets. People will just go, carry it, and fling the whole things. How do you prevent that? For me, the only way you can one of the main ways is to match the force. With force. Match force, the force of the rampaging thugs with force. The other is education, which is even more important. Education. Nigeria, I don't know. Some people say that we must change our attitude. You know, talking about restructuring, or that the number one thing that needs to be restructured is the attitude of Nigerians. Because whether it's parliamentary system works successfully in some countries, presidential system works successfully in other countries. Why is parliamentary system, why didn't it work in Nigeria? Why is the presidential system not working? How come that systems that work in other countries successfully are not working successfully in Nigeria? One may then begin to suspect that it is the attitude of the Nigerian towards those systems and practices. How do we begin to change our approach to these things? I think that is very important. You can reform your constitution, review, amend your constitutional definitum, but unless you amend your attitude, you restructure your attitude towards doing things, I'm afraid it may be long before we can get it right, if at all.
Okay, thank you, Senator Osumbo. We'll come back now to Mr. Ezenwa. You heard what they've said, and Kingsley earlier spoke of Machiavellian style in Nigerian politics. How do you do away with that?
Okay, I think one of the first challenge that we have in understanding our challenges is the arrogance of ignorance. And when I say that, what I mean is that if you don't understand the process, one of the first things that you do is to try to understand that process very well, and then you can now engage it. So let's start with election security architecture in the country, for instance. The election security architecture, the law says you don't take arms to the ballot box, the polling unit area, but 300 meters away from that place you have armed policemen. The reason for that is that in case there are issues in the polling unit area, you can coordinate with the ones who have arms in there. And in the outer layer, you now have soldiers. For us in our country already, you already have military operations in about 29 states already engaged in military operations. That is roadblocks, all of those things. Election does not dismantle those things. They are still there. But the truth of the matter is that in election situation, what you have even found is that the first respondents are indeed soldiers. So for the architecture itself is that if there is a collusion, if there is compromise, if there is the attitude that is elections, crime during elections is crime on Christmas Day or crime on Salah Day. So that attitude prevails in the way we view elections. So security personnel engage it from the point of, look, it's politics. If you arrest anybody, Mr. Candido then will call people they know, and then you'll be released.
It's never done that.
No, you understand? So those are the challenges with security, with the security. The mindset is that it's elections. So even when you have proper structures to deal with that, they don't activate it because of where we're coming from. That's number one. Number two is that if you watched NTA during the course of these elections, you will have seen NTA reporters talking to observers in Bayelsa from polling units. That is not outside of polling units. And then bringing them back again to studio to have conversations with them. If we show you a mirror of yourself, if you don't like what you see, you can break the mirror if you like. But it does not remove the picture. These cameras, the world is so connected now that you can't hide anything. You no longer can hide. As you are shooting, as you are carrying the ballot box, the media is observing elections. You have NTA, you have the channels, everybody is in the theater. As you are shooting, they are recording and they are moving and show it to the world. And most of the time, these things are live. You can't edit them anymore. The thing to do is not to begin to talk about, those who are painting a bad picture. One of the challenges that I've said, and if you remember, Oga Kingsley, I've made this point in NTA. We over-respect our politicians. The challenge of the electoral process is not the institutions. INEC officials get ready to conduct elections. They carry their ballot box to the place. They want to share materials. I was in a particular registration area center where the core members were as early as 7:30 in the morning. The security men were not there to help them to go out. In the night, they were abandoned in the rack center. They didn't provide. They had to leave that place and went back to their corpus lodge to go and sleep when a place had been provided for them, because the community people insisted that where they were supposed to stay, they should stay somewhere else. And the INEC officials said, no, we can't stay there. They held them down. They couldn't distribute materials until very early in the morning. What do you do in that situation? The punctuality index for election is that you are starting by 8. The man who is supposed to provide cover and security reneges. What do you do? So I see that and I call it out. You say, oh, I'm painting. And remember that INEC accredits observers. So it's not an all-comers affair. It's not that you wake up and you say you are going to Bayelsa to go and observe election. There are conditions for you to get accreditation. And remember, there are foreign observers as well who are in the field. They are not staying in hotel rooms. In Bayelsa, in Kogi, they are everywhere. They are beaten up by thugs. Foreign observers were beaten up in Kogi. How do you explain that? Even if I try to cover that up, how will beating them, molesting observers? There are people who were taken, the observers were taken, they escaped by their whiskers. So the challenge of understanding elections in the country is that the political class of our country are irredeemable. They don't want to be part of clean elections. And they don't understand what it means.
Yeah, but why isn't that a sweeping statement?
No, it's not. When I say they are irredeemable, I can tell you from the point of understanding this process that they don't want citizen oversight. They don't even want to be oversighted. And that is why you see arrogance in governance. Okay? That arrogance that, look, the people don't matter. Civil society is partisan. Is there an offense in partisan? The man who is talking is partisan. So the point to understand is you are given, Prof was talking about criticism. Every criticism, all you need to do is to reverse it. That's where the recommendation comes. The recommendation of criticism is to say, look, so the point that I'm making is that the arrogance that we see in power is because the people who govern us do not understand that citizens have responsibility to oversight their actions. So they give themselves, they get into the office, they award to themselves retirement benefits that are not, so the prerequisites of office is what angers the man who loses. The man who loses is already, because he sees that as soon as you become a chairman of a local government, when you finish, you give yourself the salary that you earn as a local government chairman for life. For just having a tenure of 4 years.
As I will pause you, but that isn't a widespread practice. I mean,
Lagos is already there. Candido is already doing that.
Hold on a second.
In Amak, he's already made the law. He has already made the law to give himself.
But you do know. I think we have also had you as part of the conversation in interrogating the pension benefits of former state governors. How humongous.
No, he has just done his own.
No, how humongous those benefits are. He's still serving. No, he's
just doing his own.
He has the next 3 years. He has the next 3 years if he needs to do that. But you know, gentlemen, as part of providing the solutions, the issues that have been raised, I want to come back to Michael Kaude-Ajayi. Earlier, you were talking about the system of voting. And whether that could, on its own, if it is ramped up or otherwise transformed radically, might then take care of some of the shenanigans that we are seeing. You want to elaborate on that?
Yes. Let me start from Professor Uwosu's approach. And his approach happens to be described as the freest election in Nigerian history, where police never shot a bullet, and where everybody accepted the result. Even though it was described as being crude, people were asked to queue behind the picture of the candidate. And I think screening started by 9 o'clock. By 12 o'clock, everybody was on the queue, and everybody was counted. You could see from the queue who has won, and everybody went home. No fight. Although the politician came again and said, the husband and wife, the husband was on one queue, the wife was on one queue. When they got home, they started fighting. That we should adopt secret ballot system where you have this. But you see, it depends on the sophistication of your political culture. He did that, and that election was, and then we now have secret, open secret, and so on and so forth. But much as the electoral system has been evolving in trying to improve the electoral system, the politicians have not made it very easy for INEC. Professor Jega did a lot in trying to reform our Nigerian electoral system. He brought in the card reader system to ensure that those who are accredited are able to vote. They are the ones that... But even still then, you still have overvoting. Why do you have overvoting? If you have been accredited through the card reader and they are counting, we now recall. In this election, we had overvoting. So one of the problems...
Allegation of overvoting. Allegation.
Well, if you say allegation, and they counted, and they said, according to those who reported on the field, the electoral officer said, this election, why did you cancel it? Overvoting. So it is no longer an allegation.
No, well, overvoting in that case, I mean, if that's outright cancellation, so it won't,
yes,
it
that's
won't
what I'm
matter.
saying, that we have that. It's becoming a feature of Nigerian politics now. Now, how do you circumvent how do you go beyond the issue of ballot paper destruction, ballot boxes snatching? The opponent is, the politician is very clever. He looks at where you have your strength. He ensures that you don't exercise your strength. So the next thing is, as long as we destroy the ballot boxes, that election in that unit is cancelled. We must begin to look at that area. And the most advanced country will say go to e-voting. But e-voting itself is looking at the level of political development. We cannot flow with that sophistication. Because e-voting requires that there must be power. The level of infrastructure must be very huge. But where you have a station whereby energy cannot be relied upon, how do you now transmit? Where you are trying to transmit information, you discover that they tell the network is bad. So before you do e-voting, your level of infrastructure, the state must be very, very high. So we are still very, very far. I don't know how we are going to do it. But to me, the best election that the common man sees and is happy about is the one he queues behind, but nobody wants it. So how do we do it? How do we ensure that we don't destroy ballot boxes, vote cancellations, and so on and so forth? I think we need INEC now after this election. There must be lesson learned. Both the successes recorded at Bayelsa, where all the politicians praise INEC to high heavens. For the first time, I was seeing INEC being praised. And I was highly moved. And then, conversely, on the other side, the violence in Kogi tends to make the victory very, very sour, so to speak, where they reported about 15 to 20 people died, the figure is not stable, and so on and so forth. Ballot paper snatching and so on. You know, so the INEC must now come to make a comparative analysis of Kogi and Bayelsa, and then try to get out some lessons. So that
lessons for whom?
Lessons.
I mean, what business would INEC have to do with the thugs, for instance, or what business would INEC have to do? Bayelsa, as you indicated, was a clear surprise. Apparently, there seemed to have been no fatalities, and we recall what we had seen in Bayelsa over the years.
That is it.
But it could also be the nature of the local politics this time around in the governorship election.
Yes. So I agree with you on that.
A lot of voter education.
Yes.
Yes. The concentration for voter education, and that's part of what Mr. Candido will not know, that civil society will not just show up on election day. There is also that go get out the vote campaign. There is the campaign against violence, which is intense, which was very intense in Bayelsa. But all of that also has to do with what you have just said. The truth is that the reality is that the objective conditions for change were already present in Bayelsa. And so when the citizens themselves had to scale flood in many places, you could see those pictures, and I lived it. So so they scaled flood to go and vote. What that meant is that, and like Prof has said, they want this democracy to work for them. They want this thing to be beneficial to them. They are not making those sacrifices. Forget the story of the talks. Forget the story of the ballot box snatching.
But it's not the story, it's the reality.
No, you don't understand what I'm saying. I say put them aside. But the resilience of the people in wanting to cast their votes means something. It means that they want to see their life improved. They want to see a better condition. You couldn't. So what we are saying is that the institutions, if you deployed 35,000 policemen, if you deployed 33,000 policemen, and ballot boxes are snatched, people are assaulted, and all of that. What you do is, when you come back, and that's the point that you are making, we do not take interest in audit. We don't say value for money. We put out this number of security agents, this volume in the PVT, the parallel voter tabulation that Yaga Africa does, showed 102 critical incidences in Kogi. In Bayelsa, you had 21 critical incidences. So the ratio is less. Somebody now has to come back and say, can we introspect? First and foremost, did we actually deploy 35,000 people? Who did the counting? Who took the pains to find out whether you had more security people in Yenegua, in the upland, than you had in Ekeremo, that you had in southern Ijo, where you actually required much more police presence? Those are the interrogations that needs to take place.
All right. You know what, Mike? Maybe we're going to have to get it to ceasefire in the meantime. So we're taking a short break. When we return, of course, we'll get ahead with the conversation and also get the views of our viewers via tweets. Okay.
Meet the dreamer. Meet the stylish. Meet the bold. Meet the inquisitive. Meet the warrior. Meet the master. Meet the realist. is coming. Unity Charlie. Power, development, and peace. Coming soon.
Can I see your particulars, sir?
Officer, my particulars no dey here.
In that case, you'll have to come with me to the police station.
Officer, which levels? Where I for find you something make you take arrange your weekend.
What? Offense number 1, driving without particulars. Offense number 2, trying to bribe an officer of the law.
I won't harass Nigerians or take bribe. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Advertising your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24 has all the platforms for your target audience. The station is on DSTV channel 419, GoTV channel 46, StarTimes channel 101, and Free TV channel 703. With our digital format and wide range, we can reach your customers in next to no time. We are eager to promote your business, goods, and services. So, partner with us for a very rewarding business experience. For more information, please call Henry on 0803-379-0884 or visit our office at NTA Headquarters, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24. News and more news.
Back. If you're just joining us, this is Good Morning Nigeria, and we've been discussing managing electoral victory. We have a number of tweets. Nigerians are talking and trying to contribute to the program. We begin with Sani Michael Omokoji. He tweets, managing election victory will not be possible in Nigeria unless the masses or poor men will be allowed to choose their leaders right from the grassroots.
This is coming from Ozude Chukwebuka. Now, in the light of managing election victory and loss, the electorate must be sensitized on peaceful celebration and constructive criticism.
And Chris Simon tweets, are we ready for free and fair election that is void of money politics? Are we ready to do away with violence, thuggery, and every form of intimidation during and after elections? To emerge a victor in an election should not take bloodshed.
Victor Onomo, let winners be humble and magnanimous in victory and manifestos harmonized for the good of the people.
And Adekunle Olayemi tweets, it is not the contestants, but those that voted for him or her that needs to rejoice if the contestant is the people's choice. Those that celebrate the victory of election in Nigeria today are not the people that are ready to serve faithfully.
Ukwama Chukwemeka, let the electoral umpire and security agencies be empowered to do the needful during elections. The masses can be handled through mass sensitization, and electoral victory can be managed much better.
And Badamasi Haruna Adamu tweets, it can only be achieved if you have good political men and women who see the game as an end, not to a means to an end or a war without bloodshed. In a nutshell, we must do away with our parochial political culture and embrace participants' political culture.
Amagbola Hambab's tweets, now the best way, according to him, to manage electoral victory is to ensure that the true wishes of the people are respected and not subverted. However, when victors emerge, even through a transparent process, the winners should extend a hand of fellowship to their rivals.
Yes, and again, Chris Simon tweets, on the ground of managing election victory in Nigeria, these are the critical questions we need to address. Do we have a vibrant and clean electoral body that are ready to handle electoral matters credibly?
All right, so those are the tweets that we'll take in the meantime. Now, the issue of extending a hand of fellowship to losers, it's one that has also come up in the course of the election, considering the huge cost that both sides normally would expend, the winners and the losers. But from our experience, earlier Mike was referring to what happened in the Second Republic when we started the presidential system of government in 1979. NPN and MPP got into the so-called Accord Concordial, as K.O. Mbadiwe did say at the time. And that accord collapsed. Every time we will keep hearing of GNU, that's Government of National Unity, you bring in a few persons here and there. It is an all-inclusive government an illusion under our current system of winner-take-all? Or would that also call for a reform so that you come, as it were, to the table? I mean, let's forget the usual snide remark that, oh, people come to the table to eat. You come to the table on the basis of your electoral performance. Not now, it's a zero-sum game. If Professor Osumbo scored 1 million votes and Honorable Candido scored 999,000, he would have lost the election and then lost out all of those votes. So, how do we obviate what appears to be the illusion of striving to have an all-inclusive government that oftentimes is tokenist? Prof?
Well, it's a difficult one, Kingsley. First is that the system that we operate now is based on winner takes all because it is different from the other system, which is proportional representation, where representation in government, as it were, is in proportion to the number of votes that you scored. In the system that we operate, even if the difference is 1 vote, the winner takes all. But out of magnanimity, out of large-heartedness, and in order to soothe frayed nerves, we've had the experience in Nigeria of the winning party or the president or whoever reaching out to the opposition and bringing people on board. You cited the example of the Second Republic and even General Obasanjo in 1999. Also, we must not forget, brought in people from APP. I remember the national chairman of APP, Senator Waziri from Adamawa, came in as a special advisor in a PDP government. I remember Prince Vincent Ogbulafo was the APP governorship candidate in Abia. He became a special advisor, and a few other people. So we've been trying this before, but as you said, it has not worked sufficiently well for many reasons, maybe because deep down their own idea of governance and politics is different from the one in which they are serving. Although that may not necessarily be the case, because even Prince Vincent Ogbulafo, coming from APP, rose to become national chairman of PDP. So perhaps there are so many factors that may account for what you've noted, that government of national unity does not seem to have worked well in Nigeria. But without giving it a label, government of national unity, I think governments continue to reach out, even at the state level, because we are discussing the state elections now and the governors at the state level. I do know that many governors reach out to elements, to individuals, personalities in the opposition political parties. It's been done in the past, and I can imagine that we continue to see that. I mentioned before that the governor-elect of Bayelsa has already given a hint that he was going to carry everybody on board. So, short of changing our system to a system of proportional representation, we cannot but do with the present system that we are operating. Mind you, it's always been said that democracy is the best form of governance, but it has its flaws. Democracy is not a perfect system of governance. It has its inherent serious flaws that people are even beginning to interrogate. Can't humanity evolve a better system? Must we be stuck with this current practice of democracy with all the flaws that it has? So we continue to debate this. I don't have the answers here. But also to bring in a point arising from some of the contributions that we've had. People talking about bad politicians. things are not moving well because we have bad politicians. My question is, where are the good politicians? So we should have good politicians. Those who are good should venture into politics. Don't leave politics to the bad politicians. So otherwise, it will continue to be bad. Yes. Because I talked about solution. I'm interested now in seeing solutions to our problems, not just talking about the problem. So let the good people venture into politics. It may not be easy. It may be difficult initially, but it's our responsibility to change the system for the better. And it is we that will do it. So if you are a good politician, and nobody is born a politician. Nobody is born a politician. You venture into it if you want to serve the people. Then you go into politics to serve the people.
It's a process.
It's a process. You go into it. So, nobody, and the issue of who is really a politician. Is it the chairman of council, or is it the person who is a card-carrying member of the political party, or somebody who is not even a card-carrying member but is very passionate, has strong political views, who is a politician? So I challenge Nigerians, good Nigerians, to come out, give it a try, give it a go. They may be lucky. They may have many other good people supporting them and sponsoring them. That way we begin to improve the quality and tone of politics in Nigeria.
Stakeholders say good politicians usually don't have the money to contest elections. Coming to, elections, I would like you to clarify something. This whole process cannot be possible without the people. That's the electorate. During campaign, we hear issues of it's all about the people. The election day comes, these same people are being killed. Do they really matter?
Well, it's unfortunate that people get killed, but again, we come back to the question that we raised. Police is supposed to protect people, not soldiers. The police is supposed to be there to offer protection so that people can come out confidently, vote, and go back home. So it is very unfortunate that somebody will wake up from home, go to the polling station to cast his vote only to meet his end there. Is sad. And the fact that it continues to repeat itself in our country is to be regretted.
All right, Prof, thank you very much. Honorable Candido, let's come back to you. Earlier, Abi, you were talking about how you reached out to your opponents on becoming victorious. But on a state basis, especially when contestants have been through an acrimonious process, the camps can be very strong. How do you achieve an all-inclusive government in that particular circumstance without somebody feeling that, okay, this is tokenist, we're just doing this to you out of a favor, and not that you are coming to the table as of right on account of the quantum of votes that you have received?
Kingsley, I think I'm trying to look at it from this angle, from this position of who, like Ezenwa said, that politicians are too respected. I don't know whether that is your position, sir. But you said it's like politicians are too respected. Now, from that point of your conclusion, we may be able to differentiate between a politician and a leader. We as human beings are urged to respect our leaders. These leaders are coming from, in our own case, through and under democracy, through the politicians who vie for positions. And if as a politician I get elected and I become a leader, shouldn't I be respected? But then should I be respected to the detriment of the followers? So in this case, the followers ought to know that they are well and above the person they elected. That is if only they know. But if they do not know, then they will continuously to be under the political elected personalities. But be that as it may, let me go back to this question that has just been raised by Kingsley. Let us look at Kogi State. I'm making reference to that. Even before election, the incumbent for now come from, quote unquote, the minorities. Now, if the minorities, these same minorities in Kogi State, who, that is, let me just call names, they are the Igbira people. And the incumbent is an Igbira person. Those who know Okene and Igbira as people, they may agree with me or may not agree with me that these are people who are like warriors. In all facets of their thinking and activities, they look like warriors. And therefore, they have an advantage now of somebody from their extraction leading the state. And they see the leadership slipping away. Okay? Now look at the vote that came from Okene. That vote that came from Okene is like vote that came from almost 7 local governments, because they came out in their warrior form to protect their son and ensure that they don't lose him. Because we're operating a system where the majority dominates the scene and they're marching on those who they see as minorities. It's a simple analogy that can be found in all the states, where you don't allow even the minority, no matter how the capacity they have, you don't allow them to, have access to governance. These are the situations. And therefore, for me, I think if we have an inclusiveness in governance, sir, I want to tell you, all these things will be, put behind. But unfortunately, we try to dominate and dominate unnecessarily, and then try to make sure that those who are supposedly the minorities never have anything to say. Possibly they could even do better than than the majorities. But because they don't have the quantum of vote that will make them leaders, they fade away. And with little or no time, nobody get to know about them again. So these are things. I am a believer in participatory democracy. I believe in all inclusiveness, irrespective of you win election or you don't win election. But unfortunately, we have a character. This is our character that our conduct as such that we don't even look at it the way, if this man has won election, let me go and congratulate him. They don't do that. Democracy is never perfect all over the world. Even the rascality we are seeing in US today is as a result of the kind of, the political activity that we're having.
Yes.
Okay? There's a lot of rascality, even in where you call a developed democracy. What is causing that? It's because there is no sense of inclusiveness. Everything has to do with win, 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 and then you forget about those who even participated. For me, I have seen it from my opening remarks. I have said you must ensure that both the losers and those who won are brought together to add value, and then you can get the best for your country.
Okay, Chief Michael, he said both losers should come together. In Nigeria, usually after election, the first recourse is to go to court. And how we are in court maybe for a year or 2 years until you get to the Supreme Court. How can there be, how can you manage your victory when you're always in court and that enmity continues to grow?
You see, just as I said earlier, the cost that you put into the elections is so huge now in Nigeria. Even beyond what is provided for in the Electoral Act. You spend so much money. You must be a billionaire before you think of going into a gubernatorial contest. It's not for just anybody. So when you look at the cost you have put into it, and you have lost, and you look at your supporters living in droves, maybe some people even got loans from the bank. The hypertension of how to manage that crisis is a problem on itself, to accept that you have lost. Then even where you have even said, okay, let me even manage the pains, your supporters will be urging you on. We will not accept. But when it comes to payment of legal fees, the supporters don't pay. You still have to bear the costs. And the cost with senior advocates, I'm sure, Prof. and the chairman know it's not easy. You are going to pay millions. Don't forget that you have just spent billions on the election. And now you are now facing with possible paying some millions again through the judiciary, through the legal process. So the supporters are one of the problems. They urge you on not to accept defeat, that you must go to court. And the court is not cheap. It's a lengthy process, a rigorous process that is a tortuous road, let me put it that way.
Okay.
So, I don't know, I just get a little bit, the judiciary is to, some few years back, I wrote an article in the Tribune about 20 to 25 years back, and I was talking about the Third Republic. The success of the Third Republic is dependent on the judiciary. Because even if you are drunk, or you are intoxicated with power or whatever, once you step on the temple of justice, that alcohol should disappear. And that is the judiciary itself. It is the judiciary that makes democracy to succeed.
Yeah, okay. But Mike, thanks a lot. But that Third Republic we were all talking about collapsed also.
Yeah, it collapsed.
Of the performance, alleged performance of the judiciary. One last point, Ezenwa. Now, this is to say, look, getting to grips with governance after elections. We have also seen, some would say, an unhelpful national attitude. The Prof talked about our national attitude of perpetual electioneering. So, Mike is saying people are going to go to court, and so the elections are over, victors have been announced, losers are known, but you can be sure that for the remaining months and if not years, it will still be like a contestation as though you were going back to the polling station next weekend. How, in your opinion, can we eject from that perpetual election mode and get into the issues of real governance, because time is already running?
So that's the assumption that the basis for running for public office is service.
Absolutely.
So, but if that's not what it is, if the assumption is not for service for many, then the challenge becomes higher. So, in some states, people pay delegates of their own political party as much as 1 million naira to elect them as candidates in some states. So the man and then in a particular, even federal constituency alone, there are 301 delegates. So for you to win, you have to at least secure 200 of those. So you pay 1 million, 200 million you have already given to just people who to get a ticket. So that is fundamental. That the reasoning to do that cannot be service. It's a hedge investment. You are just an investor. So we need to take that out. If we're able to take that out, where people are actually running for public office, then the final point for me. The final point for me is that there's also an assumption in this sheer proportional thing that we're talking about, that there is opposition. I really don't see opposition in Nigeria. I just see factions. I see factions of the same political class. And I can explain. In Bayelsa, where you are talking about, Tim Silva, PDP, governor for how many years, is now the leader of APC in the same state. There is nothing that says Seriake Dixon will not come back to APC in the next few days. So the fluidity of movement of the politicians makes it difficult for you to know whether you are engaging this opposition. You are sharing these political offices based on what you are bringing. If there is nothing you are bringing other than that you are Mr. Ezenwa and that you were this, that I have to settle you because you ran election, you spent money, that the thinking is that I'm settling you. I'm not bringing you on board to come and bring ideas. I'm settling you to offset your electoral cost and the rest of them. Those are some of the conditions.
Okay, thank you so much for your input and contribution on our topic today, managing electoral victory. Mr. Ezenwa Nwoko, your election observer and chairman partner for electoral reforms. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Chief Michael Kayode Ajayi, it's been a pleasure as always to have your input on the program. We also thank Honorable Abdullahi Adamu Kandido, Chairman, Abuja Municipal Area Council. He's the Executive Chairman, actually. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And last, we would like to thank our former Governor, Edo State, Senator Sarame Osumbo, for his input on the program. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
It's been a very, very delightful conversation. We now take our sports update.